While the rest of Europe was stuck in the Stone Age, with tyrants ruling ruthlessly over their subjects based on divine right, Poland, as usual, was centuries ahead, establishing a democratic system of ruler selection as early as 1573, while the rest of Europe was still hunting witches and worshipping monarchs like gods. Poland's revolutionary system came about in an unusual way, starting off with a union between two countries. When Jadwiga of Poland and Jagiello of Lithuania married in 1386, they combined the ruling dynasties of both nations, ensuring their descendants ruled over a great stretch of land which became a European powerhouse. In 1569, the union was formalized at the Union of Lublin, and the Polish-Lithuania Commonwealth was established. It was at this point that the new system was codified, whereby all nobles could elect a new monarch upon succession, with all nobles and members of foreign nobility eligible. This came with a number of benefits such as representation, flexibility, and a higher degree of meritocracy, which gave Poland a decisive edge and led to its rise as a dominant European power, at least until those very strengths came back as the very flaws that would bring Poland to its demise. The main way the elective system stood out was its representation of the people during a time when iron-fisted monarchs consolidated absolute power across Europe. Poland stood alone on its progressive path towards suffrage and came up with a unique experiment of a strange cross between a monarchy and a democracy. Firstly, Poland-Lithuania was already unique in that nearly 10% of the population were nobles, compared to 1% in most European countries. This was already a huge step ahead of the rest in terms of civil rights, and meant that once these nobles were given the right to vote, 1 in 10 citizens could choose their leader. This system was massively beneficial in keeping the Commonwealth together. The Commonwealth was uniquely diverse, home to a huge range of ethnicities, nationalities, and religions, yet despite the lack of open-mindedness in medieval Europe, it stayed unified. This was mainly down to the elected monarchy. The system was unique and guaranteed uniquely extensive rights to nobles, to whom the king was subordinate. The sense of pride in being part of such an innovative system, along with the incentive to keep it going for the sake of the personal freedoms it granted, caused the Commonwealth's nobles to mainly identify with the nation for this reason, rather than based on group identity. This meant that Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian, Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant avoided the kinds of fights commonplace throughout the rest of the continent, as they shared the purpose of upholding the very system which allowed them to coexist, leading the nation to instead focus on development and expansion, stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea, single-handedly halting the Ottoman invasion of Europe, and even briefly occupying Moscow. While initially Poland's daring experiment paid off, all good things come to an end. Like the Roman Empire, the system became stagnant and failed to adapt to changes in the world. The nobility became arrogant and disconnected from reality, and other more dynamic nations rose to power, their sights set on a frail Commonwealth. It was Poland's greatest strength which ultimately led to its downfall. The nobility had grown so strong and the crown so weak that it became paralyzed. During times of struggle, reforms were needed so the country could adapt to new circumstances and face rising powers, but nobles vetoed any law which even slightly reduced their freedoms. The liberum veto, which meant that any one noble could stop any law from passing, was abused and allowed Russia, Prussia, and Austria to carve the country apart. It also made it incredibly easy for these countries to influence Poland's politics, needing to bribe only one noble to put any hope of change to a stop. Even through these difficult times, Poland put up a fight and made conquest as difficult as it could, but it was ultimately its own lack of flexibility and dynamism that allowed its neighbors to overtake it. While it inspired hope and was far ahead of its time, perhaps the nobles of the Commonwealth should have been more careful and designed a more balanced system, and the Commonwealth could have survived until today as a global superpower. What do you think they could have done differently? Leave your ideas in the comments. Dziękuję. Like and subscribe to restore the Commonwealth.